Yo, guys, it has been a long time since we've talked. I am so sorry for the delay in putting out videos. Honestly, I've been so busy with so much WoW that's been going on. Synergy released Old War a week ago, and I have four level 80s on that server. So I've been doing 10 mans, 25 mans, losing my mind with all of that. I've been piloting for a guild that I'm friends with on Warmane, helping them get their first Light of Dawn, which would be Realm's second Light of Dawn. On Heroic Lich King, I've been piloting a Ret Paladin and a Restive Shaman on that. I've also been prepping for Phase 3 of TBC on my Feral Druid, so I've just been crazy, crazy busy doing all things WoW and just haven't been able to pump out videos recently. But I wanted to get back into doing a rhythm of these classic Wrath questions with Rugs. So this is going to be my second episode of that. I've got three questions that we're going to go through today, and this one might be a bit shorter. We'll see how it goes. But I really like these questions. I saved them from a while ago, so they might be a little old, but they're going to be great, great questions, and I love them. So starting us off, Eric Burrud said, "Hey man, nice content. My question would be: if DPS warriors are gimp till Old War Bis, what's the best interchangeable character I can play until TOC/ICC that my guild won't mind me swapping to for a warrior, assuming I have a warrior in decent gear and ready? At the moment, I play Hunter and an alt arms warrior in BC, but so far looking to swap to DK unless there's a better option that allows me to swap to warrior." This is a great question. Honestly, I love this question because I love that people are thinking about what do they want to re-roll to for that next flavor of the month, flavor of the patch meta, because things really do shift in Classic Wrath. Certain classes are going to be strong early, and certain classes are going to be really strong late. And so I love this guy's thought process here, and I have three good options for him moving forward. So these three options are going to be your Frosty K, an Affliction Warlock, and a Rogue. The reason I say Frosty K is because Frosty K is really good early. They're just awesome. They don't need much gear to kick ass. They're really, really strong early. They're strong through the whole expansion, but they're just good early. They don't need gear, and they'll always be strong. Unholy picks up in Old War, and in fact, you actually take less and less Frosty Ks as the expansion goes on, even though they get really good with Armor Pin. Other classes just become more viable and better for those later fights and the later content. So you might see a guild run 2 or even 3 Frosty Ks in Tier 7 or in the first phase of Classic Wrath. And then come, TOC, you might see them only having one. You might only see one DK that's Frost in their ICC group. So the things kind of shift for Frosty Ks, but they're phenomenal. It's a good melee for you to play. They're not going to be bringing anything that's a necessary buff for your group by any means. Improved Icy Towns is going to be covered either by another Frosty K that you maybe want to keep as the token Frosty K for your entire expansion, or maybe your DK tank can spec into it for you. So DK is going to be a great option. Next is going to be your Affliction Warlock. They're just amazing. They're, in my opinion, they are the best DPS of the expansion because they are most valuable for the entire expansion. They're going to be incredibly, incredibly good in phase 1, and they're going to be great all the way until you kill 0% Light of Dawn Lich King. Now, of course, there's going to be fights where they're not the number one DPS on whatever fight, of course, but Warlock stacking can be a thing for some of these tougher fights, especially week 1 fights, and I think they'll be really good for speedrunning too. Your Affliction Warlock doesn't bring any specific buff to the table, so you know that you're not losing or gimping your raid in any capacity when you switch to warrior. The only downside is playing a ranged rather than going from a melee to a melee, so it might be kind of hard on your brain to adjust there, but I do think Affliction Warlock is always going to be a good choice, especially because you'll like to run them a lot early, and then you'll find ways to replace Affliction Warlocks as you get late into the expansion, into TOGC and into ICC, where a lot of guilds will maybe end up running just 3 Warlocks in ICC instead of like a 5 or 6 Warlock comp early on in the expansion. And then Rogue. I love Rogue. I mean, you could go combat or assassination here. The thing is, combat's going to bring your physical debuff, and assassination brings nothing. So just like the other two, it's not a raid buff that you really care about. A lot of guilds will maybe run 1 or 2 rogues and Nax, and then they'll run, 1 or 2 rogues in Old War, one being combat, one being assassination. And then you might see one rogue in TOGC, maybe two, but probably just one, and then you'll probably just see one rogue, maybe two combats in ICC. So at the end of the day, like they're not important. It doesn't matter. And if you wanted to swap to warrior to get that high ceiling going for you in TOGC and ICC, I think switching from an assassination rogue to an arms warrior or fury warrior in TOGC would be a good choice. But if you want to be sticking with combat all the way through, that's fine. I just would rather see you play assassination in phase one. But ultimately, if you want to just pick a freaking rogue and don't care about the spec, you could totally play rogue for the first couple phases and then switch back to your warrior for the last two phases. But these are going to be my three recommendations. Great question, Eric. Thank you for posting, man. Let's go on to the next one. This is Athish Gaming. Asked this question. This was in one of my DK videos, so this is all based on a DK perspective. This comment. He says, when it comes to leveling in Wrath of the Lich King, aka starting 70 start with a geared guild, what spec would you recommend and why? Do you potentially switch it up depending on whether you are in a spell cleave versus a melee group? And is it worthwhile to tank or just let the prot paladin / feral with gear from TBC handle that? Which spec makes the easiest transition into a 10/25 man raid spot? Great question. Great question. And I don't think I've talked enough about leveling for Classic Wrath. And so let me, start that conversation with us, especially from a DK perspective. I just love this question. Specifically, do you potentially switch it up depending on whether you are in a spell cleave versus melee group? I mean, yes, I think you do actually. I almost feel like this guy knows something when he's asking this question, as if he was setting me up for success with this, because there is a big difference. If you're going to go Frost, do you really want to go Frost with a melee cleave group? Because they bring improved Icy Talons, as we can see here, which is going to be a 20% haste buff to your party in raid. And if you're in a spell cleave group, for sure go Unholy. Unholy is going to be great because they bring Ebon Plaguebringer, which is just going to be whenever their disease are hitting targets, are going to have an increased magic damage taken by 13%. It's just super good. It's super good, and I think overall your Frosty K is going to do more damage in a dungeon cleave group if you're spamming dungeons to level. I think Frosty K is just burstier. It's going to be the mobs die so fast that I think Unholy is going to have a hard time keeping up with that damage that Frost can pump out, even though the two are very comparable in an AoE situation. Frost is just too bursty to compete with, I think. But if you're in a spell cleave group, you got to go Unholy. It's just way too valuable, and you're only buffing yourself with improved Icy Talons, versus you'd be buffing your entire party if you bring Ebon Plaguebringer for a spell cleave group. So Unholy is going to be a great choice for that. Now back to the question. What spec would I recommend? I mean, up to you, up to the group. When it comes to leveling in general, I'm gonna always say go Unholy, especially for single, like questing, solo content. I would always go Holy. A lot of people like to harp on blood being amazing, super sustainable, so much self healing. You can pull big mobs and packs and all this stuff. But look, if you look at the history, for the past, like, 4 servers that I've played on, every single private server, every single one, the Realm first level 80, not just level 80 DK, the first 80 is always an Unholy DK. It's always an Unholy DK. So if you ever want to go like fast and solo content, Unholy is the way. They do good sustain. They have the pet, which is really helpful. They get on a pale horse talent, which is going to have them move faster on their mounts. They're just great. Blood is good. I am not shitting on blood. You need to relax. Blood is very good. It's probably a lot easier for you, but Unholy is going to be faster for questing. And then which spec makes the easiest transition into a 10/25 man raid spot? They're both good. Honestly, they're both great. I think more often you're going to want Unholy for 10 mans than you will for Frost, because there are just going to be more casters that you want to buff with, especially for the more difficult encounters, especially in like Ulduar, for example. Unholy is going to be way more valuable for your group. For 25 man, I want both every time, so either is great. Oh, and not to skip over this, is it worthwhile to tank or just let prop paladin / feral with gear from TBC handle that? definitely let the prop paladins, ferals, and prop warriors handle that from TBC. Them with all their gear, it's just going to be phenomenal for your group. It's going to make it be very smooth. Anytime that I've ever tanked dungeons on a DK on like a fresh server when we're racing to level 80, your gear is terrible at the time. Assuming like even if you have some gear from Sunwell because you sweated it out and have some pretty good gear as a DK, not only like are you probably just going to be squishier than all the other tanks who have Bisgear, but your damage as a DK tank is poop. It's terrible. You really like are gonna want to have to spec DPS anyway, and just have tank gear on you. But just let the other tanks do it. Trust me, it'll be so much smoother if you do not tank these groups. I would rather have a prop paladin. I would love to have a prop warrior for a dungeon cleave group. Um, Either one of those is going to be amazing. Feral's going to be decent. They do okay damage, and so I would definitely lean on them for that. It's not going to be bad if you wanted to tank if you really wanted to, but I would lean on the other people for that carry. And we're going to do one more question, and then we'll close out this video. And this is from Monsters Time in my Twitch chat, who asked me a while back, what are some classes you think you can carry? You think can carry a raid team in Wrath? And I think I've already answered this question in an older video of mine. But to me, the answer is very obvious. I mean, if we're saying some classes, there's a lot we could throw in there. But to me, I want to narrow this down for you, and I want to give you a clear answer. And the carry class in Wrath is Paladin. Paladin is your freaking king of Wrath. Your prop paladin and your holy paladins are going to be some of the most viable carry classes that you can put into your roster from the start all the way through the end of the expansion. Make sure you have either a raid leader, prop paladin, maybe you have both officers on holy paladins, or whatever your case may be. Put your good carry classes on your prot and holy paladins. I think those are the most important roles in your raid. If you get those down on good players, the rest of your raid will just fall into place. Now, that's it for this video. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Classic Wrath Questions with Rugs. This was my second episode ever doing this. I would love to do more of this. However, I need y'all's help. This is a two-way street. If I'm going to make more of these Classic Wrath questions, I need you guys to be commenting some of your questions down below. You can either comment on this YouTube video, you can comment on my Twitch channel. I'm streaming quite often, like I said at the top of this video. I have so much old work going on right now. I'm doing ICC right now. I'm doing so much stuff right now. And even Phase 3 is coming out with TBC. So there's lots that I'm doing right now. So feel free to hit me up on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/RUGSZ. And yeah, just comment down below. And subscribe if you like this content. Seriously. I know it sounds corny, but like that stuff's really helping me out. And I'll hit a wall and like completely stop making videos if you guys completely stop commenting. So you guys fuel me, and I thank you so much for all your support. Love you guys, and we will be talking soon. Peace.